The next Lee and Ian podcast is approaching the station. Please step aside.
And welcome to the Lee and Ian Show. I'm Lee Navlin.
And I'm Ian Grodman.
The Lee and Ian Show is sponsored by Grodman Law and Mediation. Remember, when it comes to divorce, family first, your children first. Mediation, it's the way to go. Grodman Law and Mediation.
Thank you, Lee.
Ian, you're quite welcome. Ian?
Yes?
I do something also, by the way.
You do?
Yes,
What do you do when you're not doing a podcast?
If you want to check out my latest, it's LeeNavlinBooks.com.
Oh, I love that website.
So when I'm not recording a podcast with you, I'm writing books.
You write beautiful books, too. They should be screenplays, too.
Thank you, Ian. We are working on that.
Good.
So from your lips to God's ears.
You got it.
So that's LeeNavlinBooks.com. Okay, so Ian, would you like to hear a joke?
More than life.
Did you hear the one about the eye doctor who decided to run for office?
You know what? It sounds vaguely familiar, but why don't you fill me in?
Well, his opponent, believe it or not, accused him of lacking vision.
Oh, yes, you did.
You like that one, huh?
Yeah.
And with that, perhaps, rather than tell jokes, we should introduce our next guest.
I think you should.
I'm proud to call him a true Livingston original. He's not only an eye surgeon, he's the mayor of Livingston, and he's running to be an Essex County Commissioner at large. Shawn Klein, welcome to the Lee and Ian Show.
Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you, Leah and Ian.
Yeah, what'd you think of my joke?
I thought your joke was, a little harsh, but it's all right. I can roll with it. No
Okay,
problem.
well, you know what? With the short
You'll
notice,
remember that one.
I hope to show that joke is not true.
Yeah, that's right. Well, short notice, so
You might use that, right? For a stump speech.
Yeah, but Shawn, we both grew up in Livingston, by the way. Now, you grew up there. You've lived there your whole life. You're the mayor of Livingston, a Livingston Lancer.
Is that the
same as you, Lee?
team at the high school?
That's right. Yes,
yes.
the Livingston Lancers.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So one of the great communities in the state of New Jersey, if not the country. I love Livingston and the job that you've been doing as mayor. Now, I believe you've been mayor now for
This is the third go-around for mayor.
three terms as mayor. Is it a 3-year?
So the way it works in our form of government is that you get elected to the council. This is my third term in council, so 12 years all in. And then amongst the council, we rotate around the mayorship. And I actually think it's a great form of government because in Livingston, we've been able to provide a lot of really effective solutions to problems. And that's in part because of the form of government we have. We know that when we're passing the mayorship around, like a lot of people say, oh, you never know who mayor is in Livingston. But the truth is that if you know you're going to get a chance to be the mayor, which a lot of people enjoy doing, you don't have to sit here and worry about what political votes are going to be affected by what. The North Star is good government. I really believe this, and I say this all the time, that in Livingston, I don't remember anyone on the council ever taking a vote that was not in the best interest of town, that they looked at some political consequence. People are always looking at the North Star as what's best for the town. And I think we've had a lot of great results because of that.
That's great.
Now, you when you ran originally, I believe you knocked off a Republican incumbent who had been there for many years.
A couple of years.
Yeah. Are the Democrats kind of running Livingston now?
So it's been 5-0 Democrats for a while, and that always comes up, and sometimes people make a suggestion that the town government should be nonpartisan. I actually don't agree with that. I think that having political parties, even at the town level, has substantial benefits. First of all, when you look at Democratic Party versus the Republican Party, there really is a difference in philosophy, and fundamentally it comes down to less government versus one party believes in less government and one party believes in good government. And if you can provide good government, you really can do things that there are no other organs in society that are capable of functioning. And I think that's been one of the problems in the Democratic Party. The Ezra's Klein book, if you guys have read the Ezra Klein book on abundance, he really crushes this point and so effectively. And anyone who's listening to this, if they're not aware of that book, it's an important book to seek out. The Democratic Party, if you're going to be the party of good government, then you have to actually address and solve people's problems. And we have stopped doing that. So we need to start doing that. And we need to figure out where the levers of power are, where you can make big differences for people and exercise those things.
And the Democratic Party has traditionally been a force for good, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is, in some ways, we've lost our way.
I think, there are a lot of examples where there have been good intentions, but either because of, onerous precautions or because you're trying to do too many things at once that you just almost don't get anything done at all. And you can't let, in government, there's going to be some compromise. You can't let perfect be the enemy of good. But there can be a lot of good things that can be done.
That's good.
Now, my mother, being a Jewish guy, grew up in Livingston. If I had decided to go to medical school like you did and become an eye doctor, she'd oh, my son, the doctor.
My son, the doctor.
My son, the doctor. If I ran for mayor, my mother might pick my son, the mayor. You know, now we're talking about Essex County Commissioner. First of all, how do your parents feel about that?
My parents are fine with it. They're not. My wife, on the other hand, you might want to ask her that question. But listen, I think it's a very fortunate opportunity to be able to do this. It's the county is a very important role, and I think sometimes people don't understand that role. The first thing that people think of when it comes to the counties are parks and roads, but the county budget is almost $1 billion. There are so many good and important things you can do with $1 billion. The county is involved with the social safety net. It's involved with the school system. There's 3 high schools, vocational schools. There's a college. There are justice systems. There is a lot of public safety stuff. It is a really important level of government, and I think that the commissioner board is sort of ripe to be re-energized, and there's new people coming in hopefully that will have a lot of vision, and we're going to figure out some new things that haven't been done before.
That's great. Because one of the things that we've talked about, we had Christine on as well, is that a lot of people really have no idea what the county commissioners do. And I think just the things that you've talked about right here is a fantastic education for people who are listening to hear some of the things that the county government actually does do.
Yeah, I think it's a problem, right? You shouldn't have a body of government that has so much sway over the daily life of everyone that lives in the county and not know what they're responsible for, and not know what they're doing. And I think that the way you address that is you have to, for example, I'm running for an at-large position. It's not just for one district. I'm hoping to have a position which goes from West Essex all the way to East Essex. And so, listen, I went to the big city mayors, and I sat down with Roz Baraka and Ted Green and Tony Voss, and I said to them, listen, what's been working when you talk about how the city governments function and how they coordinate or don't coordinate with county government, what's working well, what's not working well, what does the county need to be doing that in your eyes that they haven't done enough of? And those were really important conversations for me because I said to every one of them, I said, listen, you have my ear. If I get elected into this position, this is my cell phone number. I want you to call me if you have a thought. If you think that I'm doing something wrong or I need to be doing something better or the county's missing the ball on something, please call me. We need to talk about those things. And that's how I think we have to approach this government. And we have to talk about what we're doing, right? You can do things in government, but people don't understand that you're accomplishing it. And this is part of what Joe Biden did wrong, right? And even Barack Obama. They did great things in government, especially, Joe in the first part of his presidency and Obama did so many great things. Sure. They didn't talk about it enough. They didn't explain to people the benefits they were getting. They didn't explain the difference they were making. And in government, there has to be a communication aspect to it.
Yep. Absolutely. So growing up at Livingston, went to Livingston High School, Mr. Hill. Remember Mr. Hill, the social studies teacher?
I didn't have him, but I remember the name,
Legendary guy. Chris Chrissy, as a matter of fact, Ian,
told me about
says Mr. Hill is the reason he got into politics. Wow. So despite that...
we can thank Mr. Hill
That's
for
right,
that.
but despite that, but Mr. Hill would say to me, you didn't do your homework, you didn't prepare, you don't know what you're talking about. And Ian actually, he speaks to me, Shawn, the same way. So Ian is like, you didn't prepare for the podcast, you didn't know what you were talking about.
Well prepared.
I don't get that feeling at all about you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So that's why I just want to let the audience know that the Essex County Commissioners serve as part of a 9-member legislative body. Call them the Congress of the county. They pass ordinances, approve the annual budget, and they authorize contracts for projects.
Lee.
They oversee county infrastructure like roads and parks. They also provide checks and balances on the county executive. So just so if everybody was saying, I don't know what an Essex County Commissioner does, now thanks to
Lee
because of Mr. Hill.
Yeah.
And Ian. That's right.
And Shawn Klein.
Yeah.
Talked a lot
And
about
Shawn
the
Klein.
different
We're
things
doing the
that
work
could be
right now.
accomplished. It's great.
So that's a lot of work, and so you would not be running again for mayor. You wouldn't be both.
I had the opportunity to run for both things at the same time, but I actually really felt that listen, if you believe in good government, that first of all, you have to give other people a chance.
Right.
And then, what am I saying if I'm sort of so selfishly saying, well, I'm not going to, I don't want the music to stop and I don't have a seat to sit in, right? That's putting myself in front of the constituents. And I just didn't feel right to do that. And
Thank you for doing that, Shawn, because I think traditionally in New Jersey, there are a lot of people who have had two elected positions, at the same time. And it's difficult to be effective.
I think as it was explained to me, I wouldn't have been able to serve in both positions, but I could have run for both and then chosen afterwards.
Got it.
But what am I doing to the people of Livingston?
Right.
If I get the Essex spot and I turn around to Livingston, I won here also,
Yep.
but I'm sorry, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
That doesn't feel like it doesn't feel honorable of me to do that, and it
Right.
doesn't feel like the right thing to do.
Thank you for doing the right thing.
And plus, you have your practice as well, right?
Listen,
so that stays.
How do you balance all
Yeah,
that?
how do you balance
Listen,
all that?
I love my day job. I think that, first of all, I joke around a lot that if, an ophthalmologist don't have to, as a serious point, our patients don't live in the hospital. So I don't have to be up at 6 a.m. rounding in the hospital before I even start my workday, like some other doctors might have to do. But so you can manage your time maybe a little bit more effectively as an ophthalmologist than you might be able to for other specialties. We have our emergencies, there's no doubt about that. But if you look at like Assad in Syria, and you look at the senator from I'm blanking on it. The senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul.
Yeah.
And there was a president of Afghanistan, all ophthalmologists. So there is
Interesting.
there is a real
Very interesting.
Okay, yeah.
there's a history of leadership coming
It's
from
about time we
ophthalmology.
had a Democrat ophthalmologist who was
That's
running.
a little bit of the good, the bad, and the
That's
ugly.
right.
as far
I
as
don't
that-
vouch for all those people, by the way, but I'm
That's
just
right.
there can be some space there. Is all I'm
Yes.
saying to do more than one good thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think medicine for me really does play into politics in a way. I don't want to say politics. I want to say government because I do want to make a distinction there. When you are working in medicine, certainly where I'm sitting, you're always rolling in the same direction as the patients that you're in. You see the best of everybody all day long. And I have an office in Elizabeth. I have an office in Melbourne. I have an office in Elmwood Park. I'm across a wide variety of socioeconomic
Good. I'm glad you brought that
groups. We accept Medicaid in my practice, and there's not a lot of ophthalmologists who accept Medicaid, but we do it because I personally think it's really important. Everyone deserves access to good eye care, and we provide it for them. And I'm one of it would surprise you to know probably I'm one of the busiest eye surgeons in the state.
Wow.
By volume.
That's great.
Yeah, and but I love the work, and that's what I was saying before. Listen, if the commissioner thing, if I don't win. And I'm not in government in Livingston anymore. I have a lot of things that really fulfill me in my life. But when you're a doctor, you can help one person at a time. If I'm a commissioner, I can help 900,000 people
That's
at a
right.
time. So that just the scale is just different.
I fully understand. And your leadership experience, for instance, as the mayor of Livingston, crime has been reduced some 75% in major categories. And you say this is new technologies that you're using that have helped lead this, make this happen.
Yeah, it's truly. You opened the paper 3 or 4 years ago. We have our West Essex Tribune, as you well know. I'm sure you remember it well.
By the way, they just featured me in the West Essex
There you
Tribune.
go.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago in my new book.
It's
And everybody
it's a
who's
great
listening,
paper.
these guys were talking about Livingston like for a long time before we actually started airing today. But that's an aside.
Is there anything else to talk about?
For this kid from the Bronx, it was like, what is this Livingston?
What elementary school? Burnett Hill.
Burnett Hill.
Burnett Hill Heritage.
Yeah, because we grew up in a
That's
similar,
right, Burnett Hill,
a couple
Heritage,
blocks away
Livingston
from each
High
other.
School.
So yeah,
That's right. Yeah, I was on the Yankee chain. I was on the Yankees.
I was
You
on
were
the Angel
Angels.
chain. That's right. That's
Yeah, so
right. We
little-
played on the American League side of town.
There we go.
Yeah, we dominated the Angels, by the way, back in the day, Ian. Yeah, that's
I
right.
wasn't playing for that team yet, so
That's right.
that's
That's right. I'm a few years older.
Changed later. Yeah.
We were also talking about how I was, the worst player on the top team for like 2 years in a row. So there you go. Like 3 or 4 years ago in the West Essex Tribune, every time you looked at and this is for a lot of communities in the area, it wasn't just Livingston. There were stories of car break-ins, people breaking into houses to find key fobs. And you heard some very hard stories. People were walking around, and as an elected official, I got stopped all the time. People were afraid. There were times where people were held up by gun. People didn't feel safe in town. It was tough. And as an elected official, the number one priority is public safety. And I had been talking to some mayors in Westchester and so forth, and they told me about license plate readers, and they really were not, used in any kind of force at that point in New Jersey that I was aware of. And we were the first town to really create a license plate reader bubble. And I'm really proud of this because we took the bull by the horn, so to speak. We really were able to put this into effect. And the license plate readers do a couple of things that are really important. The first is that when someone is coming off of a highway, it's usually kids, by the way, like this was part of the big problem. And there'd be repeat offenders and they would be let out. And we understand that that's a very difficult situation because they're kids, right? You're not gonna throw them in jail and throw away the key, right? They would come off the highway. They would always use stolen vehicles to come in and commit crimes in Livingston. And there's a database attached to the license plate readers. As soon as they came off the highway, it would ding. The police could stop the car before they got into the neighborhoods and cause problems. And I think this was important for a couple of reasons. One is that, first of all, it created public safety in Livingston. It really, 75 to 80% drop in those things. But second of all, people were feeling so unsafe. I talked to our police chief. People were buying more guns in Livingston. People were afraid in their homes. So someone was going to get killed.
Yeah.
And by stopping these kids before they committed, they broke into a house, I actually think we saved lives. And more so than that, I think we prevented these kids from making even a mistake just in the first place. And if you can dissuade people from these kinds of activities, you're going to hopefully give them less exposure to that kind of criminal undertaking, and maybe just kind of make it safer for them. So I think all the way around, I think it's a really important thing that we did, at least certainly from where I'm sitting in Livingston. The paper is now, you don't open up the paper and see that every day. Like you did see that 3 or 4 years ago.
If I can just ask a question. So these license plate readers would identify vehicles that had been stolen?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just any... Oh, okay, so
it would
those
be
are
typically
stolen
they come into the neighborhoods off highways.
Got it. Off of 280.
In a stolen vehicle, off of 280, for example.
Right.
They're identified immediately, and they're stopped before they can do any harm to themselves or to
because it's a
other
stolen
people.
vehicle.
That's right.
Good. Okay.
That's right.
Yep.
It's important.
It is.
Crime. Livingston is it's an affluent community.
Yeah.
It's a lot of big homes, and they're looked at.
I'm surprised to hear that there's crime in Livingston. So
yeah. So
3 or 4 years ago, people felt unsafe.
Yeah, my parents' house was broken into 3 times actually. We lived right near Livingston Mall back when the mall was busy, so it would be
my parents' car was stolen.
Yeah. So crime happens
we
everywhere.
have felt it.
But the bottom line is, people have to feel safe. But that's not all you're doing. Listen, this is what I really love about some of the other things you've done, Shawn.
Yeah.
You've saved residents money on their electric bills by buying cheaper, greener electricity on the free market using aggregate purchasing power.
Yep.
Yeah, listen, this was also something I think was a real innovation. So a few years back, and we've tried to do this multiple times. We've done it twice, and you can't do it. The market conditions dictate whether or not it's possible to do this. But essentially, what we did, listen, let's say at your house, you don't like your energy bill. You're paying too much per unit energy. You can call up the energy company and complain, but they're not going to pay attention to you. You're one person.
Yeah.
What if you're 10,000 people? Or what if you're 30,000 people, 10,000 households like you are in Livingston? So what their state law allows us to do as a municipality is to go out to the free market and buy energy on the free market and have that energy brought into our homes through the distribution system that's already in place. And so you can actually negotiate for cheaper energy. You can negotiate for greener energy.
I don't think we do that in Maplewood.
And so you did do it you did it at least once.
Okay.
Because there was a group of 8 towns that did it together, and Livingston did that with the 8 towns, and we did it with Maplewood when we did it the second time.
I'd been Fred Profeta years, perhaps.
But we a few years ago, I'm going to guess around 7 years ago, we had a 14-month contract where 70% of Livingston was running on sunshine and windmills. We were literally just like not causing any carbon footprint in 70% of the houses. So it was that was an accomplishment that I was like, one of my proudest accomplishments.
Good for you.
Somebody who cares deeply about the environment.
Good for you.
That was something I was really excited about. And, if we're talking about environmental things, I think there's one other important thing that we did that we were trying to teach other towns how to do is, so this is just more of a story about government in general. When you get into government, at any level of government, don't tell anybody, but you actually don't know what you're doing when you start. Right? You really have to figure out
You got to sit
what's
next to
possible.
somebody who knows what's going on.
That's right. It takes a
Yeah.
few months before you figure out what you can do. So you can, you see it happen all the time that people have all these campaign promises about, I'm going to do this in government, I'm going to do that in government. And then you get into the spot and you're like, oh, I actually can't do those things.
Yeah.
So one of those things when I was running was, when the first time around was like, well, why don't we just make our housing stock more sustainable? Why don't we have, mandate greener roofs, better windows, better building envelope? Let's decrease carbon footprint. It'll save everyone money on their energy bills. They'll be happy about that. It just seems like it's win-win-win. Well, you can't do that because municipalities cannot affect the building code. In fact, only the state can. And actually, even the state doesn't do it because it goes by federal code.
Right.
So you want to try as one council person in one town out of 565 to change what's going on in the state and therefore what's going on in the country. Good luck.
Yeah.
However, this was a happy ending. After a few years, we figured out, or this was research that I did with one of our town attorneys, that when you do a area in need of redevelopment, that's a chance to do an agreement with the developer, and you can specify whatever you want in that agreement. And we created an ordinance which actually elevated the building codes for all the essentially all these hundreds of units that are coming in as part of our affordable housing agreements. So, the affordable housing stuff has lots of other issues to get into, but we have been able to use that as an opportunity to create much greener housing stock in Livingston, and we've talked to other towns about that. And I think it's something, again, it's a feather in our cap.
Yeah.
We're really, listen, this is my point. You really can innovate in government. And it doesn't have to be that you have to come up with all the great ideas. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak, right? There are lots of other people who come up with lots of great ideas, and you just have to keep your ears open. You have to keep talking to people. You have to keep learning from people, and that's how good government happens.
And you have to produce. At the end of the day, it comes down to what are the services being offered in my community, and is this a good place to live? Am I paying, for instance, and Ian, I think you'll be impressed with this one.
You always impress me, Lee.
Thank you. Well, Shawn is going to impress you. So, Shawn, you were able to hold municipal property taxes under the inflation rate, decrease the size of the municipal government, and you increased the bond rating to a
AA1, which is the second highest.
Right.
So
he did that without, by making the cost of living.
That was a real feather in our cap, and I think our council can take credit for that. Also, our town manager Barry Lewis, our CEO, our CFO, and Ann Cucci. I think if you really keep your eye on the ball and you make sure that you're not wasting dollars, and people feel like they're getting something for their taxes, people realize it. And I think it's. I'm really proud of the fact that our bond rating got elevated. It shows fiscally that we're being responsible, but not only that. When you have a better bond rating, it's cheaper for the town to borrow money. So even into that's an accomplishment we can be proud of for our past behavior, but there's benefits into the future as well that, the town can actually be leaner and owe less money on the money that it borrows. So it's all good things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Livingston has a history of very powerful and well-known politicians, from Tom Kane Sr. to Chris Christie. Tom Kane Jr., perhaps not as powerful. And so how did you went to a medical school, but where did the politics bug come from?
I think, so my mom used to say, you do what you can. And I think she might have meant it as like, don't get discouraged. But I also took it the other way as, you have an obligation to do what you can. Mm-hmm. And it's like I said before, I think in medicine, listen, I'm always intellectually curious and I always want to learn new things. And I do feel like you need to do what you can to help the people around you. And I think being a physician, as I said, you can help one person at a time. In Livingston on the council, you can help 30,000 people at a time. At the county level, you can help 900,000 people at a time. And to me, that's what it comes down to. I like problem solving. I like setting a good example for the kids below us, that they can see that government matters, public service matters. I want my kids to see that. And that's what motivates me.
That's great.
Where did you go to college?
Penn.
You went to Penn. Okay. University of Penn?
University of Pennsylvania.
Is that where Christine?
Yes, Christine went there too.
Right.
They both
Were
went
you there
there
at the same time? Or?
I think I was
Maybe
maybe 4 years older than her, so maybe we just missed each other by a year, if I remember correctly.
Very
So
interesting.
you guys want to sit at college going, someday we're going to be county commissioners.
And they're both great
right?
candidates for county commissioners. So, yeah.
100%. So where'd you go to medical school?
I went to Rutgers,
Okay.
down at New Brunswick.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
then you came back you started your practice in Millburn, I believe,
Well,
right?
we started. So my father was in practice in Elizabeth,
Okay.
with his partner, and I joined up with them. And then I have an office in Millburn that I work out of as well, and then we have a new office that's in Elmwood Park. I did my training in New York, so that's another reason why I think the county position is kind of a natural fit for me, because I actually really do have like bona fides, for in other parts of the county besides just the suburbs. I trained at my ophthalmology residency at University Hospital in Newark. I was there for many years. I've slept in that hospital more nights than I care to remember.
And you teach there as well.
Right. So I for many years afterwards, I haven't taught the last couple of years just because of schedule changing, but I taught the residents and medical students there for many years afterwards as well. And every once in a while, I'll still have patients that'll come in, and they'll tell me, you were my doctor when I was in Newark, so you still feel that. And, our office in Elizabeth, we have a huge number of patients that come from Newark, come from East Orange, come from Irvington, and they all, our practice is a busy place, and it's a place where people know they can get good care. And
That's
so
great.
people will travel a little bit to get to
That's
us.
great that you take Medicaid. It's very impressive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's, you're a good guy. You're a good guy. You want to
That's
help
it.
people.
He is.
You
do what you can.
Right, you do what you can.
See, that's a Livingston thing,
And always
Ian.
remember your mom's words.
Yeah, that's a Livingston thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to help people. That's what
it.
happens.
You're going to
when-
have to make sure she listens to the podcast. Yeah.
That's right. But have her listen to the podcast. And by the way, just looking a little bit about your background now, I think you said that you're still buddies with your 8 friends. You grew up. You guys are still very tight.
So this is my pick. I wonder, and Lee, I would ask you after I say this, I'm going to ask if it's the same for you. I always sell Livingston as like the best thing you can say about a town is that people come back to it, right?
Yes.
And so when people move to Livingston from other towns, they didn't grow up in Livingston, they cannot believe how many people are in town that grew up in town. So the typical thing is you grow up there,
I've
you
always
go off
said
to
that about
college,
Livingston.
you might be in New York City for a while, you might be seeking your fortune and glory somewhere for a while. And then when the time comes that you want to have a family and you want good schools and you want great neighborhoods and you want a town that has pride in itself, that there's a volunteer core, people in Livingston are proud to be from there. And it's it feels good to go back there and raise your own family. And you just see it over and over again. And so I had a group of 8 very close friends in high school, and 6 of us moved back after college, and so, it does, it feels like home. It just does.
Yeah, it's funny. I've often said that people they're born in Livingston, they leave, they come home, and that's where they.
We've had a few people from Livingston on the podcast.
Yeah, that's. I know we just had someone recently, and the name's slipping my mind, but we just had
L-Town Lowdown.
Oh yeah, so the L-Town Lowdown. Yes, she was.
There's a few people involved with L-Town.
Yep.
Neely Margulis, is that who you had?
Name is,
She's the head of L-Town.
yeah, she's gonna kill me. My name is.
She's the one who does the
Blum,
food
Heidi
and
Blum.
restaurant.
Heidi Blum. Heidi
the
Blum.
food czar,
Yeah.
sure.
Heidi,
the
I
food czar.
apologize. We're doing this podcast late at night because Sean's so busy.
This is actually the second taping that we're doing today, Heidi,
Right.
so please
So Heidi,
forgive us.
apologize.
You guys seem sharp to me as possible. You don't seem tired at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, but
you.
I don't want to start with Heidi, who we love.
Yes.
And we love. And by the way, we love her podcast.
Yes.
She does the food
She was a
podcast.
lot
Heidi
of
does a
fun.
great job. She's a Livingston institution.
Yes,
She was very
she
fun.
certainly
Yeah.
is. So you've got the reason I mentioned your 8 friends is because I know if we mention them, that we'll have 8 listeners at least.
There we go.
So name drop. The key is name
Well,
drop.
and so Lee and our sons are friends, and they have a group of about 8 friends who've
Yeah.
been friends since elementary school, and they still, they're in their 20s, but they still spend all their time together. They're all going to Japan together at the
That's
end of
it,
the
yeah.
month.
Oh,
fantastic.
So it's nice to have friends for life. But I would have moved back to Livingston, but I was kicked out. But that was before you were mayor. So I'm wondering now if you'll let me back in.
You're more than welcome. There's no doubt
Sean
about
will
it.
welcome you with open arms, I'm sure.
Right, yes, I would like to move back
Yes.
to Livingston. We had a 1/4 acre of property. Neighbors weren't on top of you like
There
they
you
are
go.
in Maplewood and
Yes.
South
It's the
Orange.
land of governors, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
right. Yes, that's right.
That's true.
Yeah. I worked for Livingston Pharmacy back in the day when I was in high school, delivering for Livingston Farm. And Tom Kane was we used to deliver the drugs to Tom Kane up the mansion he had
Yeah,
up
listen,
off Shrewsbury.
Livingston's Livingston's named after the first governor.
Yeah.
We have
That's right.
we have Tom Kane. We've got Chris Christie. Brendan Byrne lived in Livingston for a while.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we've got our groups.
Yeah, David Weilstein.
David
grew up in
Weilstein,
Livingston,
yep,
who,
absolutely.
Sean Klein.
Yeah, Shawn
Oh yeah,
Klein.
Oh my
right.
goodness, sure.
Yeah, let's not forget about Sean.
And Jason Alexander from Seinfeld.
That's
Sure.
By the way.
Who also lived in Maplewood.
Yeah, he did.
He
grew
went
up-
to Seth Boyden.
That's right. I had Miss Kasner. Do you remember Miss Kasner from high school?
I loved Miss
Loved her
Kastner.
to death. She was in the theater.
I'm not even joking. I've thought about her not infrequently. Do you know what happened to her after? Because I actually tried to look her up a couple times after just to say hello, and I never was able to track her down.
What did she teach?
She
Her license plate said Dazzle. Do you like?
Yeah.
I remember she used to drive like that.
yeah, she was like a drama teacher among other things, and but yeah, she used to. So I was very much into drama. Me being a drama queen, drama king. What do you want to call me? But she always used to talk about her prodigal student who was a few years older than me. He could sing, he could dance. Jason
Alexander?
Jason Greenspan, right? She used to, and he's going to be a big star, and he's off Broadway, and she would talk about him constantly. And years later, I'm looking at by the way, it was a doctor's office, and I'm looking at a People's Magazine. This is back when Seinfeld was on the air, and there was an article about Seinfeld, and it was talking about them growing up, and they interviewed Miss Kasner, and she was talking about Jason Alexander.
I love that.
That's the prodigal student she had been talking about.
So cool. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Dazzle.
Yeah.
That's her. She always said
Yeah,
Dazzle in her. That was her
right.
license plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Livingston's a fine place, but it's a big city. It's a big town. It's not an easy town to run, and
Listen, by square mileage, Livingston's as big as Newark.
Absolutely.
Livingston is a big place.
It is.
And so that lends itself to certain problems. So, for example, one of the things that you get complaints about is the road conditions. So, the problem is we have so many miles of roads, and roads are so expensive. It's always our biggest capital item. But we would like to say that every 12 years we get through the whole town repaving, but it gets very hard to do that. It is a real problem. Every city and every town has their challenges. I mean, that's just the way government goes. You can't get to everything all the time.
No.
I have a question. So, talking about innovative, right? And Sean, obviously you've done a lot of innovative things since you've been on the council, since you've been the mayor. So it seems as though there's a sort of an albatross right now in Livingston with the Livingston Mall. What do you think is going to be happening?
good question.
Okay, so the
going
Livingston Mall was a very tricky problem because
Yeah.
there were 6 owners of it. So it wasn't like there was one person that owned the whole thing. Sears had its option to get its lease. Lord & Taylor had its option. Macy's had an option. So I think PSE&G owned part of it. So there were a lot of different owners. So trying to get everyone on the same page for a while was herding cats. And we had to do some legal maneuvering, and we had to essentially use the sledgehammer of saying we were going to condemn the whole property, which took a while to get together.
Sure.
And we have so a couple of developers in place that we're talking to. The key for the Livingston Mall is to make sure that there is one unified vision for the whole thing. We do not want it to be piecemeal. There is no place in this area that's it's almost 70 acres with this much potential, and you can't blow it. You have to. It has to be something that the town can be proud of and excited about. It has to be. There has to be some special elements to it, which will people not just like a traditional mixed use kind of thing. There has to be something special to it. And so we're figuring out what that's going to be, but the township's not going to blow it on this. It's too important.
Good. Yeah, it is. Good.
Can I be the 1,000th person to give you my advice on what I think you ought to do with the property?
Please.
Well, I'm sure you must hear that all the time, right? Hey, you know what you guys ought to do? Develop it, make it into a roller skating rink, turn it into a park. I'm sure everybody.
People love the idea of park. Well, let me hear your idea first. I don't want to. Yeah.
No, you know what? I understand. I grew up right around the corner from there. I would imagine that townhomes or some type of development homes would make the most sense.
Well, we have some affordable housing,
Okay.
which is already that we had to incorporate as part of our agreements with the state. But we're not going to. The developers, of course, would like to come in and put in 10,000 units there, right? But listen, I'm someone who thinks affordable housing is crucial, and Livingston has been held up as a shining example of meeting our affordable housing
That's great.
obligations. In
Good
fact,
for you.
we had so many affordable housing units that we were the only municipality in the state, I believe, that had units carry into the next round from our
for you.
agreements. So we've been really serious about finding affordable housing and making sure that we're doing it the right way. But of course, there are there's capacity issues, and people in town are worried about the effects of too much housing on the school system and so forth. Just this is something that every government has to wrestle with. Livingston has an incredible public school system, and you do not want to kill the golden goose, so to speak. So there's a balancing act here. We work very closely with the Board of Ed to make sure that they understand what units are expected, and they have a long-term plan that they're in the process of moving forward with for facilities. But you do not want to kill the golden goose. I'm going to use that metaphor. You want Livingston to feel special. You want it to retain its character, and meeting those obligations at the same time as you do those things is not for the faint of heart.
Right. No, not at
it's
all.
not.
Not
But that's what government's here for. We have to be able to juggle those things.
That's great.
I have a question here from my wife.
Yes.
She would like to know if you've ever met Chelsea Handler, another Livingston.
I have met Chelsea Handler. So Chelsea Handler was very mad at the town, if I recall correctly, because she did not get into the Livingston Hall of Fame.
Ooh. Is that the Big L Club?
Big L is the Big L Club is the Sports Hall of Fame.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there is another Hall of Fame associated with the high school for just more generally. It's not athletics.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't remember what the whole rigmarole was because it's already several years back already. But she was upset because she was not invited to be in the Hall of Fame at that point.
Wow! So she actually did she bring it up on the air? Because I could see
she's talked about it in magazine articles. I know she has.
She has. Chelsea Handler would do that. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Ian,
So
I
there
have
you
not been. I am not.
They haven't put you in
No,
yet?
I am not in there either. Yeah. So
you're only on episode 52. Is that what you said?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
52.
I mean, you got to figure by 104 that they're going to be knocking on your door.
Okay, all right.
It's just about building up the momentum.
Well, if I could share my qualifications with you right now, why you still.
I'm not on that board.
So where your office is located on Milburn Avenue, right?
Yes, the one that's in this area is in Milburn Avenue.
Right
yes.
down the street. Remember Scotty's Comedy Cove?
Yeah.
So that's where I used to perform comedy for many
That's
years.
true, you
I
did.
hold the record for the largest audience ever at the
Wow,
Comedy
I didn't know
Cove.
that. Come on,
Yeah, so that's it.
What's your typical fodder for a comedy? What do you?
Comedy?
Were you observational? Were you?
I would yell a lot and blame everybody for me not being funny. That was basically my thing.
Sounds likely.
I would find somebody in the audience and be like, "It's his fault. I'm not funny today."
Let Shawn know about all the awards you've won at film festivals.
We've won some awards. Ian and I, we wrote a web series a few years ago that did quite well. We won about 15 awards in Los Angeles. Okay. Ian, actually, that's how we got to be pals.
What was it about?
It was about a Jewish lawyer from probably Livingston.
A town like Livingston.
Livingston like Livingston. And
but it was like Maplewood as well.
Yeah, but he was a guy who would have grown up in Livingston. He had a lot to say.
He sounds like a great guy.
Right, yeah, he was a great
He was.
And his best friend was the rabbi, played by Ian.
Ian.
Yeah, who was a terrible rabbi, and he was a terrible guy.
Awful
yeah,
rabbi.
but
Yes.
everybody loved him. It's just but he would give. It was like Cramden and Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton. That was kind of the relationship a little bit. You go see him doing dumb things, and the rabbi convincing him it's the smart thing to do. So
right.
But we won a bunch of awards. Yeah, so we've that was
It was a lot of fun.
But it was funny because I was once interviewed about that. It was actually Jackie Goldman, who Jackie Chanel, who writes. She writes for the local papers.
Yeah.
She's always, she interviewed a couple, she goes, "What's this character about?" And I said, "He's like a Livingston guy." Anyway, so I apologize to Livingston for saying that, but I say it with love, because
of course you're of Livingston. You're allowed to say that. Of course,
that's good. I like that, of Livingston.
Because Livingston had a lot of characters growing up. It was just a fun place to be. I don't know. You know what? It was just back in when we were growing up, and it was a flat town, so you could ride your bike from one end of town to the other.
That is true. Absolutely.
Yep. and the kids couldn't really do that. Very hilly.
The big hill on either side of town.
A lot more
Right,
traffic.
yeah.
But I just remember, waking up in the morning, and I would ride, from where I am near the Livingston Mall, we'd end up across town by Silverman's. And
right now we're dealing with e-bikes and scooters and
Right.
creating ordinances, and we actually were ahead of the state on this. But then the state came in because all of a sudden it's so much more dangerous, and you really have to be worried about people getting killed on these things. And but that's a loss of innocence.
It's a loss of innocence.
It is.
Yeah,
Right. This is what you have to worry about. That a safety issue as opposed to get out there and go have fun and come back before dinner.
Yeah.
I remember when my mother said I was finally old enough to go to 7-Eleven on my own. You know, and you would go to 7-Eleven and they had a Pac-Man machine in there, and you played Pac-Man. With
I don't remember video games in 7-Eleven.
I'm sure they probably had it removed. You know, probably the cops probably came in and
We
said,
didn't have 7-Elevens in the Bronx.
Yeah, no, you didn't grow up in the Bronx. It was like, you know, like you were gangs and things like that in the Bronx.
Sure, I was a
right?
gang leader. Just look at me, can't you tell?
That's right. Yeah.
I was the victim.
Well, I was in a gang. I was in the Bar Mitzvah Boys. That was my gang in Livingston. But Shawn, seriously, it's a serious job that you're running for right now.
Yeah.
We're having a lot of fun here. But
Shawn, what's your, people have learned something about you on the episode here this evening, but what's your, do you have a website for your campaign?
Yeah, it's kleinforcommissioner.com with the number 4.
Got it.
Klein 4, number 4, commissioner.com.
Yeah, and
Okay.
listen, I mean, it's please join up. This is we're having fun here, but this is a serious campaign, and it's about serious issues. One thing I haven't talked about is we've talked a little about that the county role is so much bigger than most people understand.
Yep.
But I also think that, if I get to this position, there's some swings I want to try to take here. I mean, one of the things that I really think, especially in this era of affordability challenges, that there are things that you can do to make communities stronger. And so those are the things I'm going to be focusing on. I think that I have not seen any county-wide solar programs.
Mm-hmm.
One way to make people wealthier and stronger is to let them provide energy for themselves, right? And so if you can get some solar panels, whether they're balcony solar panels or community solar programs, if you can create more energy, you're going to reduce the cost of energy. And also, that helps just even as simple as things like blackouts and stuff. It just makes people safer.
And you have a track record with that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's one thing I really want to work on that. And then there are things like, I remember 5 years ago or 6 years ago, there were studies that showed a 1 million word deficit between parents who read to their kids every night before bed and parents who didn't.
Okay.
And when you look at those kids that heard those 1 million words, they do much better in school.
Yeah.
Their complexity of thought is substantially more. Their language skills are better. I think, in Livingston, a town-wide program like that is great. But I think a lot of people probably even do that in Livingston.
Right.
But at a county level, if you can really get your arms around the county and make that a cultural change and a county-wide basis, really emphasize that, that is a way to uplift an entire county. And that's education. That's free education. That those brains at those ages, it's so important to touch kids at that age. I think about things like that. I think about planting trees. I think about food insecurity, right? That there are so many empty lots. Like, why are we not planting more gardens in neighborhoods? Why are we not? That talks about outdoors time that teaches kids. That's nutrition. These are things. This is how you create strong neighborhoods, and the county's got to play a role in this. This is how you create wealth and you create strength.
I'm glad you put that out there. Thank you.
So those are the kinds of things that I think about.
That's great.
So before we wrap things up, just to remind, you are running for the county commissioner at large. You have already received the Essex Dems Democratic endorsement. It's you, McGrath, Richardson, and
Abdur.
Yassine.
Yeah, and
Abdur Yassine.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big endorsement.
Yep.
Listen, it was 11 people. I call it the Andy Kim effect, right? So after Andy Kim kind of blew up the entire line, which, is a blessing for everybody if you want good government. There's another side to it. All of a sudden, there's an explosion of democracy. So you have, 11 people were running for those 4 spots to get the official Democratic Party endorsement. I was very pleased to get one of those 4 spots. But it was terrific to see so many people raising their hand and running. It does put a burden on the voter. It's hard to figure out the difference between 11 people.
That's right.
And you have to do your work. The people who are voting have got to do their work. We saw that happen with the NJ 11th. We saw it happen for governor. In Livingston, it's happening. I'm not running for that spot in Livingston, and we had a rash of deeply talented and engaged individuals who raised their hand and said that they wanted to run for town council after I stepped down. So, this explosion of democracy is so important. It does put a burden on the voter. They have to do a little extra work to figure out what's going on. But it's been a great thing.
Good for you.
And before we go, one question for you. Livingston native Harlan Coben, the famous author.
Yep.
He wrote books that took place in Livingston.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he kind of changed it. They weren't in Livingston. Now they're back taking place in Livingston. Was that you? Did you talk to him? And
No,
say,
it was, we
It's
are
a
Facebook
lobbying
friends.
effort.
I can't take credit for it. What's nice is he's been filming stuff from his books in Livingston.
Oh, has he?
So
Okay.
like, they're really, when you see stuff on Prime Video, on Prime,
Yeah.
that are Harlan Coben stories, like more of them are actually being filmed in
great.
town. So that's fun.
Well, he's reached out to me a handful of times, Harlan Coben, and I don't know
wants
if you
to
knew
write
that.
with you, doesn't he?
Well, no, he doesn't want to write with me. But he does pick my brain occasionally, and it's usually for like question like, where did the potheads hang out back in high school? Those type of questions.
You knew the answer to that?
Nike base.
That's right.
So, but he did
He
write.
was the founder of that spot.
That's right. But he did write a book that has something to do with the Nike base, which is still there, which is now, by the way, a booming artist community.
Yeah,
Now,
so it's Essex County Park.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
So that
cool
is Riker Hill
place.
Art Park.
Yes.
And that's the county. We talked about this really incredible collection of parks that overseen by the county, and there is essentially an art colony that's in Livingston
It's
where
a pretty cool spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those spots
with
are
nice
coveted.
views, especially in the
I've
winter
been
when
there.
the trees are kind of you have a beautiful view. So, but yeah, that's where the Nike base was, and for years it just kind of sat there vacant. Then they came up with this wonderful
Use for it.
Wonderful use
That's
for
great.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in fact, the funny thing was they took out those whale's tails from the Livingston Mall. You remember those huge whale tail sculptures?
Yes, that's up there now.
And they put them up there.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. Yes, that's right. Yeah, you go up there. It's like being in Livingston Mall, 1982, circa 1982.
That's right.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Livingston. Shawn, this was great. I really appreciate you coming down. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Shawn.
I mean, I'm supposed to not root for people to win elections.
We can
I'm
root
supposed
for
to be
people.
impartial, but I am rooting for you.
Thank you.
100%.
I much appreciate it.
If I need,
I've been telling Shawn since he first was going to run that I've been rooting for him. So yeah.
And now that Ian knows the insurance you take, I think you'll probably be seeing him in just right.
I might have to come in. Yeah.
Happy to see you. That's for sure. Happy to see you.
We're both at that age right
Yes,
now. Where,
yes.
you might be seeing both of us in the next few weeks. So Shawn Klein, vote for him. That's Essex County Commissioner at large.
KleinForCommissioner.com.
KleinForCommissioner.com.
The number 4.
All right.
Good. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been a great time.
Thank you for coming.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we do it again,
Have a good night.
good night, everybody.